So I was like, oh, can we curse on here? Nah, right? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Fuck yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he said, fuck yeah. So I was like,
don't say this, don't say that.
It's hateful.
Don't say this, don't say that.
if you're watching these stores right now, 19 brand new songs. A lot of legends, a lot of legendary DJs, a lot of legendary producers, a lot of legendary MCs, a lot of dope musicians. It's really something I worked hard on, and I'm very proud of it. Yep.
Like, have you asked him about Floyd? How did that go down in that radio show?
Oh, well, the thing is, somebody asked me about Floyd while I was doing an interview, randomly asked me about Floyd. And then I said, yo, Floyd is like one of the most talented guys in the whole game, but like he needs to fight better opposition. And apparently he was listening, or maybe 50 was listening because it was Shade 45. I don't know who the fuck was listening, but somebody was listening and said, yo, Floyd, this guy said you ain't fight, so Floyd has the ego. So Floyd just called up like, hey, what's up, fellas? So I was like, who is this? He's like, Floyd Mayweather. I was like, yo, when are you going to fight somebody in the top 3 in your own weight class,
Yeah, at that time, he hadn't fought anybody.
But the thing with Floyd is, years later, you go from a fan standpoint and you come from the era where like, Sugar Ray Leonard was fighting, Tommy Hearns when they were both in their prime. And, like everybody, the tough fights eventually got made in the prime of their careers. So I came from that era of growing up watching that. But now it's a different game. It's a business. Like Canelo waits for GGG to look slow when he gets older. And now it's the time to fight him. It's like it's a different, it's a whole different, Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather fought like 6.5 years late, after Pacquiao already got knocked out cold by Marquez, and neither guy had knocked anybody out in like a decade. It's like, so it's a different era. And Floyd, he has this motto where it's which is smart. It's a businessman, but I'm not from that era. Like, I'm the art guy. Remember the art over money guy? Right. He has that motto, highest reward for the least risk. So you fight a bigger name when he's not, that's what he did. You fight instead of who was the crazy, Paul Williams, Margarito. Instead of fighting Margarito and Paul Williams, you fight Baldomir because, you fight Zab Judah, you fight these, it's like, so, he knew the big names over that. So he made a lot of money doing that. And look at his last fight. He fought the biggest name in MMA and made more money than almost every fight he ever, or probably more money than any fight he ever made. He fought Conor McGregor, and the fans ate it up and bought the bullshit, just like they ate up Manny Pacquiao and Mayweather. I remember they were like, this is like the Thriller Manila. This is like, no, it's not.
Dude, he bragged about it. He was calling it the biggest heist in the history of boxing. When he dressed up as a burglar and stuff, like he did it in front of everybody's face. By the way, as someone who's been watching boxing my whole life, I just want your opinion on this, but dude, I know for a fact he carried Conor. I know for a fact.
Yeah, but even though the MMA fans were so ignorant and stupid, they really believed that this guy had a shot. And then they were like, look, he landed more. I'm like, yeah, because when a man is a threat, Floyd purposely makes sure he fights defensive. He makes sure not to. He was fighting Conor like this, just moving forward the whole time. Like, this guy can't punch for shit. He punches like a bitch. Like, Conor can't punch. He's not a professional pugilist. He's a fucking MMA fighter. So in the first round, Conor hit him with like an uppercut. It didn't even do shit. And then Floyd's like, oh, this guy hits like a girl. I got this. I could walk forward, have fun, not even give a shit. Like, And then the MMA fans like, oh, look, Conor's doing good. No, he didn't do good. He just
Did Floyd bet on himself on the over-under in that fight?
He did?
Yeah.
Isn't that illegal?
Apparently not.
Yeah.
Are you positive about that? Because that got to be illegal.
He bragged about it. And he actually did say, he said, at first, they wouldn't let me do a certain amount, but why would I do that if I want to make money?
I don't know if that's true. I'm not saying it's not either. I'm not going to, because it could be true. But I feel like that's illegal. Like I think
it should be.
I mean, if you do that shit in baseball, you're destroyed, you know?
Yeah, right.
But boxing, you could be like, fuck it, I'm just going to do whatever round. Or maybe.
Boxers can bet on themselves.
Oh, they can?
Yeah. Christy Martin was on her show. She said she bet on herself in fights.
Yeah.
It shouldn't happen. I agree with you 100%.
So
There's
you
so
can
many
say the
complications.
over and under. So if I last over 6 rounds, then I get this much more money.
The over-under was in the 10th, and that's when Floyd stopped him.
Wow.
You know, like,
oh
I'm
yeah,
just, like,
you know, I'm ignorant now because I just
Yeah.
I just figured, okay, I got you. Yeah, because I remember there was people, Bernard Hopkins. You're right. You're allowed to bet on yourself. It just went over my head because I was thinking, oh, he carried the fight to make the. I got you. But
they should stop that though. They shouldn't allow fighters to bet.
But
bet on
I
themselves.
remember B-Hop when he fought Trinidad, he put Golden Palace on his back. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
And I believe that they paid him $300,000 to do it. But then B-Hop, I believe, put the $300,000 on himself, winning the fight, and turned it into like $3 million or some shit. I forgot what it was. You know?
Wow.
Breaking my heart with that one, man. I was a big Trinidad fan.
Oh, I love Trinidad to death, man. I love them. But you know what? I was a huge B-Hop fan, and that was one of, I got a lot of predictions wrong in my life, like everybody. But there were certain ones where that one I went publicly and told everybody, to Max Kellerman. I told everybody. I said, B-Hop's going to beat Trinidad. He's had too long of a career at middleweight, and if he loses the first huge superstar name that he fights, that all goes down the drain. Like they're all going to go, oh, see what happens when you fight a superstar, and it's the same thing that happened to GGG, except GGG couldn't beat Canelo on the cards. But he everybody avoided him for his whole career. Sergio Martinez avoided him, Cotto avoided him, Canelo avoided him. When he was in his prime, and then he gets to fight Canelo when he slows up and not looking as good, and now everyone's like, see, he never beat anybody. He's always overrated. It's like, no, he's in his 30s, and he's done, kind of, but not done, but I mean, because he's in my opinion, he beat Canelo both times, and Canelo was juicing in the one fight. Definite, probably both, So. He was definitely juicing. Allegedly, I guess I can't legally say it, but he was definitely juicing, in my opinion. Allegedly, I guess I got to throw that in there in the fucking in the 175 fight where he go to Sergey Kovalev like one, and he's like a big, like, come on, man, boxing's fucked up. And now he's suing Zan and Golden Boy after all the hiding of his foulness that they've done.
Right.
I almost feel like they should call him and be like, look.
I got to tell you, Ari, we got a lot of Canelo fans in the chat. But it's
that's what happens when it's the biggest superstar on the planet.
Sure.
You're going to have fans, There's a lot of, I don't know who's a pop star. There's a lot of pop star fans too, but Canelo's a pop star. Here's the thing though.
Yeah.
When you pay a guy $500 million, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for dollar signs. Right. Callum Smith is for the boxing heads. Billy Sanders is for the boxing heads. That would be a good, interesting fight, that the Sanders and Canelo. It's not going to generate money like Khabib. Khabib would make, so they overpriced Canelo. They $500 million for this guy. They're not going to make that. So the only way they could do it is if they do celebrity shit, and that's what sells tickets. They learned it from Floyd. They learned it from the other event that you said they did. They learned it from look what was about to happen. Roy Jones versus Mike Tyson. They just took these big famous names that don't even box anymore, and it was and that's the fight that everyone was talking about. We're in a dumbed down celebrity culture, and that's how to make money. It's like, look at our president is fucking Donald fucking Trump. It's a celebrity culture. Look at Kim Kardashian, that doesn't even do anything. She's the most famous person on the, so it's not about boxing skills anymore. And when you put up $500 million, they want to make some of that money. And the way to make that money is, if they do a Sanders fight, they'll lose. What are they going to make on that fight? They're going to have us watching it. I don't even know if I'll watch it, because he'll be, Canelo coming juicy, I don't know if I support that no more. Didn't Sanders get caught cheating too with juice?
Yeah, Sanders got caught.
He did. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so we'll have two of them. Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah.
I can't deal with all the steroid use in the sport no more either. It's like, come on, guys, you're putting people's lives in line, on the line, and then you're gonna hit just like the Povetkin fight. I just talked about this recently, but like, I'm a fan of Povetkin's past, his career. But then when you get busted twice for juicing, and now you're 41 years old, and you punch a guy with one, you're like a beautiful combination. It was beautiful, but and he's knocked out. It's like maybe he wasn't juicing, but like once you get caught twice, I'm looking at come on, he's a juice head. That's what starts going through my head now. It's like it's a turn off of the sport for me, man. It's and it was probably going on earlier. And I wasn't educated on it, you hear these stories about the legends like Holyfield and Roy Jones and these guys, but it's tough. And who was speaking up against it? Now he's in trouble for some racial comments or something that was said. But Paulie Malignaggi was really he would call out everybody who he thought, and I was like, wow, I'm surprised he didn't get in trouble for that. But he was pretty open to what he thought, So, but even Victor Conte, who with Balco and who was the football players and everybody, and he was supplying steroids for back in the day. But he went on Twitter for a long time, and he was he'd always give his input on who he thought was juicing or what he thought looked like a steroid incident, But I guess in this world, if you're not doing it and someone else is doing it, it's like they all want to one-up each other, So,
well, I think the issue with boxing compared to other sports when it comes to steroids or performance enhancers, is it's it's a gladiatorial sport. These guys are damaging each other. You don't need any extra. It's already it's the most violent sport in the world. You go by death,
You know how many fighters right? You probably know fighters personally, right? You know a lot of them, right? Yeah, sure. Because if you're a fan, the boxers are very, public. You get to meet a lot of them. So you probably met some world champions, and you talk to them when they're 35, 40, 42, 45, and you see how much damage so many of their brains have received through the years. Like you're talking to them and you're like, oh, there's something off there. There's something slow. That like they are getting brain damage. Now you're adding, and slurred speech. They can't pick the same anymore. It's like, and now you're throwing dudes juiced up on steroids, knocking you unconscious into the equation. Come on, man. And I have nothing against the sport of boxing when two grown men, hey, we're going to fight. I love the sport more than anything, but and they know what they're getting into. So if their brain has problems later on, they understand the risks. But when they never signed up to get punched in the head by beefed up steroid dudes knocking them unconscious. Nobody signed up for that,
Right. Yeah, look, the steroids is definitely an issue in boxing. But like in the Povetkin case, right? I mean, Dillian White, his opponent, got caught too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm not defending any of them. And honestly, I have no proof that Povetkin juiced up that fight. And if neither guy ever got caught and I watched that fight, I would have been like, wow, that was the greatest fight of the year. Wow. Right. But like when I went to Japan with Nonito Donaire, and that dude's just all natural. You look, there's nothing crazy. He's just like, he's like a thin guy. You would think the guy, like if you see Nonito Donaire at 7-Eleven, you'd be like, I'd punch the shit out of that guy fast. And then he'd light you up and you'd be unconscious. He doesn't look like these guys, like, and he, you see what a great champion is. He lost some big fights, but he won some huge fights, and he's a warrior and a champion, So much respect for Nonito Donaire,
Well, what do you think boxing has to do to at least get that perception out of the way? Because they're already doing like VADA testing, USADA testing, but then when I read stories that come out, I mean, I don't know.
It's all flawed, yeah. And they have ways around it now, and when there's money involved, they want their fighter to be the best fighter, so they let it happen now. Like, let that happen. Even honestly, I'm not. But with the Pacquiao Floyd fight, there was some. What did he do? He did
Look,
You know,
Floyd's done a lot of
yeah, but he was doing.
silocaine on his hands so he doesn't feel
Yeah,
pain
I know
during
about that, but
fights.
not there was after the Pacquiao fight that or before he was caught doing
Well, he
IV.
was
IVs and shit.
he got a
Yeah,
therapeutic use exemption to use an IV,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And well, that's obviously to help him make the weight, and so like you shouldn't be able to do that. But also,
Yeah.
not only that, both Pacquiao and Floyd submitted the exact same paperwork to have some type of, I forget the name, but some painkiller, right?
Yeah.
They allowed Floyd to use it, but they didn't allow Pacquiao to use it for his shoulder.
Well, that's why Floyd always fought in Vegas, because that was, it's a gangster thing. It's a mob thing. Boxing's a shady business, and his people are in town. It's like say you have beef. Do you want to go settle some beef and fly a plane over to England, or do you want to be in your neighborhood where your guys have all the guns, your guys have all the knives? You make
staying
that
in my
phone
neighborhood.
call. Yeah, Floyd's neighborhood is Vegas. That's where his people are. That's where his protection is. That's where he's looked after. That's where the other fighter isn't looked after. So that's why Floyd, he could have sold out a 200,000 people stadium if he wanted to. He was so big, with the right opponent. You know what I mean?
Sure.
If Pacquiao versus Floyd, that could have did it. I mean, I don't know if they have 200,000.
Jerry Jones offered a lot of money to have that fight in Cowboy Stadium. Pacquiao,
But he wouldn't have been. He would have been on. He wouldn't have had his gang, his boxing gang. His protectors. So yeah, it's a shady business.
I'm in the belief that fight, like the whole process of Manny versus Floyd, from the wait, like 5 fucking years,
It's 6.5.
to the fight itself. I mean, I felt insulted when I watched that fight.
Terrible
threw the
fight.
least amount of punches that they ever threw in a 12-round fight in that fight, both of them.
It's a different era. Like think about it. When it was Sugar Ray Leonard had offensive skills, defensive skills, but they had this thing where they knew they had to entertain the crowd. So if Sugar Ray was winning the fight easy and the crowd, he's like, okay, let me throw some flurries. Let me go. It's different when he fought Marvin Hagley at a 3.5-year layoff. That wasn't his be all end all fight, but it was still more entertaining than the fucking Pacquiao. When Floyd was there and the crowd needed to be entertained. I mean, when Sugar Ray Leonard was there and the crowd needed to be entertained, he would put it up and okay, now and he'd get a stoppage in the 7th. He'd do that, and he could fight more than one style. Like Hearn started outboxing him for a minute, and then Sugar Ray Leonard said, "Now I'm going to fight aggressive, and I'm going to fight this style," and he switched it up in two. It's a different thing. Sugar Ray Robinson, he was able to knock you out with the right, the left. He was able to fight offense. He was able to fight defense. He wasn't scared to get hit sometimes. Like he if he wanted to spend the whole fight not getting hit, he could have, but that wasn't that's not their style. Their style was to entertain the fans, and win.
It's one. You're mentioning Sugar Ray Robinson, and one thing Floyd likes to do is call himself the best ever. Right.
Yeah, well, every boxing historian knows that's not true.
Yeah, of course not. But what I'm trying to say is this. So, look, man, you can get Robinson in a time machine, and he could fight in this era, right?
Of course.
Floyd Mayweather could not fight in that era.
Oh, nobody.
This dude, like just by this alone, right? He had orthopedic boxing gloves. Okay, those are gloves designed to protect your hands from breaking. Okay,
Yep.
Particular. They didn't have those gloves back then.
Yep.
Okay, and Floyd couldn't do what Robinson did. Robinson could have gone 50-0 in this era.
Well,
Mayweather couldn't fight over 100 fights in Robinson's era.
Yep.
He was too brittle.
Yep.
He's too brittle.
Well, remember when they were like, "Oh, Floyd should fight GGG," and everyone's like, "You're crazy. That's a big guy." What do you think Sugar Ray Robinson did? He go from little guy to little guy, then he'd go up and fight the biggest, scariest Jake LaMotta monster at 160. Like he was fight. Then he'd go up, oh, let me fight Joey Max. He was doing all of that. But here's the thing too. When they say, oh, sports advance and they get, athletes get better in time, that's not true in boxing because boxing was more brutal back in the day. Fighters are more protected now. Back in the day, they'd fight 7-8 fights a month. They'd fight every single style, every single type.
Rounders.
Not even if you go even more back, 20 rounders, or if you want to even go even further back than that, they was fighting till people were bored. Like, oh, you guys are all gonna die. It's 6.5 hour fight. Let's call a draw.
I do want to just retro boxing documentaries. He was a former member of Leave It in the Ring. You were on the Leave It in the Ring network as a guest several times, like years ago. I'm sure you've done a lot of shows. So, but Blood Now, he's retro boxing and documentaries. It does a lot of great documentaries. He has one about Pernell Whitaker. He's working on one of Salvador Sanchez. Wow. I definitely recommend you check those out. You know what I mean?
Oh, they're out already?
You can go to his channel and they're on there.
Wow.
Yeah. Great stuff. And he's working on the Salvador Sanchez one is not out yet. But definitely a great channel to check out, especially if you want to learn more about or just kind of you'll learn a lot with those documentaries.
Salvador Sanchez had that look, because he had the funny hair and the nice guy face. I remember before I really knew, I think, what year did he pass? 82?
80, wasn't 80?
80? It was at 80?
I think it was 82, late 82.
Whatever it was, I was too young at the time to know. I don't even think I had seen him fight when he was alive, And I remember then when I'd start picking up boxing magazines when I was like, 10, 11 or whatever, I'd see this funny face with this afro smiley face and I'm like, who's this silly guy, And then I found out that he was this monstrous, killer, incredible, amazing fucking shit. Like that smiley face, happy guy could fuck up. Like I learned about Salvador Sanchez's greatness, later on, because I just remember seeing his picture in the boxing magazines, thinking he was a funny guy,
right.
With that hair, and he always had that face, and then. Yes.
With the poses, but then the bow with a ring, it was like a machine.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah. If you watch his fights, rest in peace to the great Salvador Sanchez, man.
Yeah.
Great Salvador Sanchez, and it's a shame that we didn't get to see what would have become of him. If he was in that era, because that era, the '80s, man, had a lot of so many great fighters. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say, man, thank you for coming on. I mean, we've had here for a good 45 minutes. Don't want to take up too much of your time, but I want to say, man, whenever you want to come talk boxing, man, you're more than welcome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for helping promote my record, because, this is all I have is promo, people talking, spreading the word. That's really, we don't have big budgets to throw campaigns everywhere. So all of this stuff helps, man. So, much love and respect.
Yeah, no, most definitely, man. Thanks for coming on, bro.
All right.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
R.A. the Rugged Man.